What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of MUT Tips. I'm your host, Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, and let's jump into today's topic, the edit. Improvisers take on many different roles on stage. Primarily, of course, they are the actors, or even more so, they are the supporting actors because they are supporting each other with the choices they are making. But another role that they take on is the editor because they edit on stage. If a scene is needed to be ended, they edit it and then start a new scene. And they use it with a technique that is called the edit, or it can also be referred to as the wipe. It's more commonly used in long form improvisation. It can also be used in short form. But let's look into what an edit is. So imagine there are two or more actors on stage performing a scene, and at this point you're like, I'm gonna edit the scene. I'm gonna end their scene and then start my new scene. So this is how you do it. It's a very quick motion. You're off to the side, you immediately jump up on stage, cross the stage very quickly, just like that, without giving the actors any eye contact. And that will immediately transition to the next scene. You immediately jump into your next scene with dialogue or action, whatever. The people who are on stage are gonna clear off quickly once they recognize that an edit is happening. Now, an edit sometimes can be, misinterpreted. And that's based on, maybe your speed. If you walk on too slowly, they might think that you're entering the scene. If you give them eye contact as you're doing the edit, they might think you're entering as well. So it just needs to be a very quick motion. No eye contact to the actors, downstage, right in front of them so they can clearly see you. And at that point, an edit should be recognized. Now, with editing comes great responsibility because we as improvisers are essentially in charge of the actual flow of the show. Therefore, we don't want scenes to go for too long and overstay their welcome. We don't want scenes to get cut off before they reach their potential. So when do you edit? And there are a few different reasons. And the first one is you just kind of feel it's the right moment. We as improvisers, we're eventually gonna learn kind of when the appropriate times to edit are. And we might make mistakes. We might edit at maybe the wrong moments, but as long as we in our hearts feel at that moment in time, it felt like the right time to edit, then I say just go for it. A lot of people in the beginning, when they start learning the edit, they'll kind of like start to do it by just stomping on the stage, doing one foot and then kind of backing off from it because they got a little bit scared and like, oh, maybe it's not the right moment to wipe. And I always just say, trust your foot. The second you take that step, just keep going and just edit it. The best thing about improv is if you edit a scene and end it, you can always come back to it later. And a few other reasons to edit a scene is obviously the pop is probably the main one. The pop, that big reaction from the audience. You get a big ha-ha moment or a big cheer moment. That's a great time to actually edit because at that point, it's kind of reached the peak of the scene. Therefore, it's an appropriate time to transition to the next moment of the show. Also, reaching a conclusion. Scenes kind of naturally sometimes reach a conclusion. Like maybe it's that moment when, the hero saves the day and kind of holds up his or her sword in the air high and says, I won, something like that. Or maybe like two best friends finally reconcile and they give each other a high five. That's a nice moment. These are moments that kind of conclude an actual premise, and it may not be a huge pop or big reaction from the audience, but it kind of ties the scene up in a nice little bow. And one more reason to kind of edit a scene, and it's not ideal, but it's still important, is when the scene gets kind of chaotic. Maybe there's a lot of people on stage and there's talking heads over each other, a lot of just random action. It's getting kind of chaotic and cluttered. At that point, it might be good to just edit it. Therefore, we can kind of transition and kind of rebalance our show. So these are a few reasons, and ultimately it's gonna take practice, and the first reason that I mentioned is just when you feel it's right, do it. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of MUT Tips. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like down below or comment with somebody you would like addressed in a future video. I'd love to hear it. Also, feel free to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook for other upcoming events here at Made Up Theater. A lot of cool stuff coming up this summer as well. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you next week for another episode of MUT Tips. Bye.